Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Junja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you again for coming. And I hope to cast some light a little bit further on chapter 16. I recognize a couple of faces from last week, I think. Right? You were here, right? Nice to see you again. Yes. Sorry, let me just put my glasses on. Yeah, so I just say a little prayer just to invoke some auspiciousness. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Wonderful. So, nice to see everybody here. And I hope you can bless me with, there's probably more advanced people than me here. And I hope I can throw some light on this chapter 16. So, yeah, I was reflecting a little bit on the chapter 15. You know, it really struck me that the chapter on its own is a little bit like the whole of the knowledge in a nutshell. And actually, I think I was reading also at the end of chapter 15, Krishna says actually that if you can understand just this, because each chapter is a yoga, isn't it, in itself. Each chapter is called a yoga. And I think chapter 15 is very important. I always feel it's a little bit like it's the whole philosophy in a nutshell, so especially the early part. And chapter 16 and it's quite complicated because you have to summon up this image, don't you, of the banyan tree. And I think that can be quite difficult it's quite technically quite difficult. But chapter 16, on the other hand, every class that you go to, but it's how you implement it, isn't it? You know, so I feel that's actually the most important thing to do is, you know, whatever class you've listened to, try to take something away and, understand it, but then to stand under it as well, That's the difference, is whether you are able to live your life by the things that are being said in that, or if you read something from Shastra, it's okay to take that knowledge in, but it's the living it. It's the living it makes it really come to life, right? So whatever if I'm able to get anything out this evening, and please, if we can try to make that, build it into the life, and that's the way I see. So if anybody gets a chance to take a look again at, always also as well, I feel that if you can take something away and it's okay to be here in the temple, but do a little bit of study in the evening, or find a little bit of time for one of the chapters, and because I think that, the Shastras are meant for self-study, and I think that's really where you get to understand the purports. Srila Prabhupada given us such a great gift, and I always try to also, when I read Prabhupada and I read his message, try to feel that he's written it from his heart, and in the same way, listen to it from your heart. I think that you might find that it helps you to get into the mood for accepting Prabhupada's message. Okay, so anyway, enough of my... let's take a look at this verse. Yeah, so it's chapter 16, verse 9. So to start this with the Sanskrit. Etam dristim avastabhya nastatmano labha buddhaya prabhavanti ugra kamanaha kshayaya jagato hitaha. So let's take that again. Etam dristim avastabhya nastatmano lapa buddhaya prabhavanti ugra kamanaha kshaya jagato hitayaha. Yeah, so word for word is etam, this, dristim, vision, avastabhyaha, accepting, nashta, having lost, atmanaha, themselves, alpa buddhayaha, the less intelligent, prabhavanti, flourish, ugra kamanaha, engaged in painful activities, kshayaha, for destruction, jagataha, of the world, ahitahayaha, unbeneficial. And the translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Following such conclusions, the demoniac, who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. Yes, this is very sad, and also very I feel this is a little bit like prolific, or like a prophetic, right? Prophetic of the destructiveness, the capabilities. We saw in the last century, right? How huge bombs were dropped on Japan at the end of the war. We've all seen the potential for this in man, the potential destructiveness in humans when they're not spiritually inclined, or they are when they have these demoniac qualities. And I think it's also very important for us to see that these aspects are in us, right? Through everybody's heart, there's a good side and a bad side. Good and evil is through the heart of every man. And I think while we're here in this material world, we do have to fight, don't we, on a daily basis with our ego, or our tendencies to become angry unnecessarily, or we lose our patience, or these things. I think to acknowledge that those things are there is to start to be able to tackle them. As I said, chapter 16, it's much more simple. It's not so technical as some of the other verses, but it's very down to earth and it's very practical. So what Krishna is doing here, I think, is he's putting the devotees in the right mood, So the heart is a little bit like, for us to be able to take this knowledge and to be able to, for us to be able to bring bhakti and have Krishna sit in our heart, we need to do some preparation. So that's what I feel this chapter's about, is preparing the heart and bringing these more divine qualities into our behavior and into our lives. And if you can spend some time looking at chapter 16, there's really quite some simple. There's 16 qualities that are seen as divine qualities. There are 6 qualities that we discussed last week, I think. If anybody was here, you were here, I think. And the 6 qualities that are on the ignoble side. There are noble qualities and there are ignoble qualities, right? So Krishna here is he's saying, following such conclusions. So the conclusions that he's talking about are the things from the previous verse. So that is, the demoniac view of life is that there is no controller, there's no God, there's no structure to life, there's no judicial quality, so you can pretty much do whatever you want to do, and there'll be there's no consequences, there's no karma, and this is a thing. This isn't just a recent phenomena. This atheism. It was also part of Indian philosophy for a long time. It's not something new. It's always been a thread that's run through. It's not a completely modern phenomenon or something. From my perspective, I've always felt that it's not life's not a free for all, is it? There has to be consequences for your actions, and to live that way. It just seems to make sense to me that for every reaction, for every action, there's a reaction. And so this puts in place a divine framework around the actions of everybody in the world. And in the previous verse, Krishna says, I think that, with this sort of philosophy of this sort of free-for-all philosophy, then really the main thing that's driving people's behavior is karma, right? So lust or sense gratification. Everything just becomes about, self-serving, right? Serving yourself, and serving yourself for completely transitory phenomena in the world. So if you're just gratifying your senses, these are things that when you at the end of your life, these are things that are just are purely life in itself is very short, but an enjoyment of an ice cream or a movie or a particular musical record or some other way that a person is gratifying their senses. These are just trivial phenomena that are completely fleeting within the cosmic scale of life, right? So Krishna here is he's saying then that somebody who's taken on this philosophy and is following these kind of conclusions, right? He then says that they're lost to themselves, right? Did I actually read the translation? I haven't read the translation yet. So in English then, that's following such conclusions, the demoniac who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. Yes, I did give this in English. Yeah, because I said it's this very destructive nature that we've seen. The bombs that were dropped at the end of the Second World War. Nuclear weapons. But that's not to say, of course. I mean, in the Shastras, right? We know from Mahabharata that there were very powerful weapons at that time. But I think the difference now is that weapons are indiscriminate, right? Or terrorists, or Shastras, when they fought together, they would have particular rules, and there would be an understanding that women couldn't be harmed. You had to fight only in the daytime, not in the evening. There were certain rules of engagement, but we've seen that, in wars now. We've got a war, obviously, in Russia at the moment, but civilians are harmed, it's indiscriminate. Or, terrorism. I mean, we all saw the terrible things that happened on 9/11, So, it's indiscriminate destruction. The thing is that when these demoniac qualities have taken over your life, Krishna says here also they're lost to themselves and have no intelligence, and I don't think that's completely. I think the intelligence can be there, but it's misdirected, right? If it's only directed into the material world and into the material domain, if there's no spiritual aspect in your life, then that's what causes the tragedy. the phrase, it engaged in unbeneficial, horrible work. So, ugra karmanaha, right? Ugra karmanaha. So these activities, karmanaha, ugra. So these horrible activities meant for the destruction of the world. And I think also, the terrible materialism that we know is naturally a part of Kali Yuga. We see now that it's very easy to just pick up your credit card and indiscriminately buy all kinds of things from Amazon. All these things are there. I'm not saying that there aren't good sides to that as well. I think if you can engage these things in the service of Krishna, then there are also positive aspects to commercial side of life. But I do believe that we've gone a little bit beyond. Prabhupada's vision, I think, was more simple living and high thinking. And I think he was also something of a social critic. His role as acharya was also to be so critical of the modern world. And I think it was. I think I may be right in saying that he he was looking at one of the big American cities, and he said, "Oh, it's just sex life. This is just sex life." I guess he was seeing really, how terrible the world can look when Krishna's not a part of that. And so our decision here is, whether we fall and we submit ourselves to just being engaged in a life of indulgence, self-indulgence, karma, or we pick up the more saintly qualities that were started at the beginning of the chapter. I think it's the verse 1, or I think is it verse where there's the list of saintly qualities. Sorry, it's verse text 1 to 3. So there's 16 in there. So for example, Dhanam, charity; Dhammaha, controlling the mind; Yagya, sacrifices, performance of sacrifices; Svadhyaha, study of Vedic literature; Tapaha, austerity; Arjavam, simplicity; Ahimsa, non-violence. So you see, it's really just a choice. And as I say, it's the great thing about this chapter is it's very, very down to earth, and it's very simple compared to a lot of the other chapters. So particularly chapter 15, which is for me, it's much more complex, especially as it's bringing into play this vision of the banyan tree, which I think is quite a complicated thing to bring into your mind. And so you've got these two quite complementary chapters. Chapter 15, which is very much, I feel, the philosophy in a nutshell, and then the more simple, down-to-earth, make some choices in your life. Try to bring these qualities in your life. Throw these qualities away. The qualities we want to throw away are obviously the ones from text number 4: pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, ignorance. And yeah, so as I say, this chapter's really about, I feel this is about preparing the vessel. So preparing your heart to be able to bring the gyan, the knowledge, the transcendental knowledge, and to prepare a place in your heart for Krishna. I'm not sure I can bring... I need to read the purport as well. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The demoniac are engaged in activities that will lead the world to destruction. The Lord states here that they are less intelligent. The materialists, who have no concept of God, think they are advancing, but according to Bhagavad Gita, they are unintelligent and devoid of all sense. They try to engage this material world to the utmost limit, and therefore always engage in inventing something for sense gratification. Such materialistic inventions are considered to be advancement of human civilization, but the result is that people grow more and more violent and more cruel to animals and cruel to other human beings. They have no idea how to behave towards one another. Animal killing is very prominent amongst demoniac people. Such people are considered the enemies of the world because ultimately they will invent or create something which will bring destruction to all. Indirectly, this verse anticipates the invention of nuclear weapons, of which the whole world today is very proud. At any moment, war may take place, and these atomic weapons may bring havoc. Such things are created solely for the destruction of the world, and this is indicated here. Due to godlessness, such weapons are invented in human society. They are not meant for the peace and prosperity of the world. Yeah, so quite heavy purport from Srila Prabhupada. It makes me a little bit sad, but it's also, I think, it's an opportunity, as I say, to reflect and to take a look in your own heart and to see what's there and see what you can do to bring some more purity into your life, bring some more of these auspicious qualities into your life. And prepare the heart, prepare the vessel for Krishna. And I think chapter 16 is a beautiful way to simply take up some of those auspicious qualities and remove those inauspicious qualities. So I'll stop here, if that's okay. Thank you for your attention. I wish you a lovely evening. Some very elevated personalities here. Hare Krishna.